the two teams for what should be a pulsating Premiership contest. It's Newcastle, it's Manchester City, St James's Park. Keegan always gets a fantastic reception when he returns here. 5 glorious years as manager in the 90s, and his team were wonderful to watch. Two teams lining up for the Premiership anthem. Return to Newcastle also for the Manchester City captain, Distin. Two teams shake hands with each other, which happens in every Premiership match now, but then it's down to big business, and it is big business in the Premiership. Let's take a check on the two teams. Buck was suspended in Europe, so he returns at the expense of James Milner. Kieran Dyer and Patrick Kluivert are still absent with hamstring injuries. Craig Bellamy makes the 200th league appearance of his career. Kevin Keegan brought Alan Shearer to St James's Park. Entertain, but they've kept it quite tight this season. In fact, would you believe Manchester City have conceded fewer goals than Arsenal in the Premiership? The two captains, Distin, who spent a season on loan here, and Alan Shearer, Tyneside hero, 100% legend. Steve Dunne is the man in charge. It's all smiles now, but there's 3 points to be won. And if Newcastle collect them, that will take them up to 700 Premiership points since the league was formed 12 years ago. One for the statisticians, that. Newcastle being kept waiting because Manchester City are in a huddle. Kevin Keegan has made much of their team spirit lately, and they certainly stayed in their huddle for a while, prompting a slight delay for Steve Dunne. Well, Kevin Keegan always gets a warm welcome off the pitch here, but it's always pretty cold on it. 3 times he's returned with Manchester City. They've lost all 3 without even scoring. And although their morale has been lifted by becoming the first team to beat Chelsea this season, this is going to be a tough test against a Newcastle team who are unbeaten in 8 games, Brian.
Yeah, they've had a good start under Graham Souness, and I'm sure Graham will be looking to maintain that record. It's pretty difficult for them at the moment, Ian, though, because they're not only caught up in important Premiership fixtures, but also the UEFA Cup. It really does take an awful lot out of players, and I think Graham was making some quotes in the newspapers this morning saying that he may well have to strengthen his side come the January transfer window.
Jenas advancing. Ben Thatcher is with him. And an early chance with Laurent Robert, but he's used his hand.
That's a fabulous ball into the box. And Alan Shearer, as you would expect, very nearly on the end of it. But David James didn't know that Laurent Robert had handled the ball. And it's a good save. And it's a save that he had to make. But it was a terrific ball into the box. Danny Mills had really got drawn in towards Richard Dunne. And unfortunately for Newcastle, Robert can't get the right sort of touch to bring the ball under control.
Hasn't scored since March, Laurent Robert. It's up towards Shearer, but it's won by Dunne. Bosvelt actually presented it to Bellamy. Here is Robert. Bellamy trying to close in on the Manchester City area, but it's dealt with by Dunne. Bernard, Robert. Dunne clears. McManaman now for Sibierski, who has a bit of a run on. Anelka, Sibierski, and it came off O'Brien.
Well, Sibierski could have found a better pass there. Nicholas Anelka was very bright in the way that he tried to play that one too. I was actually at the City of Manchester Stadium last weekend, Ian, to watch Manchester City against Chelsea. And I have to say, defensively, it's the best I've seen City play for an awful long time, but they will get tested here today.
Robert trying to slip it through to Shearer. Between them, Thatcher and Distin conspire to clear. Kept in by Carr though. Now Jenas. It's a lively start, but the flag is up.
Very nearly a clever ball, wasn't it? Bowyer just getting beyond the two strikers, Bellamy and Shearer. And it's important that Bowyer looks to make those foraging runs whenever possible. I think that's a big part of Lee Bowyer's game. It was what he was so successful at Leeds United. He's got to get back to that form.
Huge kick from David James, flicked on by Macken, but Stephen Carr comfortably returning it to Shea Given. Bosvelt. Newcastle won this corresponding fixture 3-0 last season, but they lost at the City of Manchester Stadium in the return. Wright-Phillips, such a key player for City, and they are missing a few midfielders at the moment. They're short in that area.
Yeah, they are, and I think one thing that they are short of as well is somebody to support Nicholas Anelka in terms of goals. They've been a little bit short in that department, of course. Anelka, 6 goals this season, 24 last, but they really could do with another regular goal scorer.
Yes, Anelka has accounted for 6 of Manchester City's 9 goals. They rely on him heavily. Bernard now for Elliott. Nicky Butt. Shearer. Bowyer. Newcastle getting it together here. Jenas was looking for Nicky Butt, who'd advanced. Here's Olivier Bernard. Newcastle 9th in the table, Manchester City 12th. City, though, if they were to win here, would leapfrog the Magpies. Bellamy ran into Dunne. And you know about it when you run into Dunne.
I was just about to say, actually, it's a very fit-looking Richard Dunne, and it's also a Richard Dunne that's playing extremely well at the moment for Manchester City. Kevin Keegan has had to spend an awful lot of time on the centre-back for his football team, but if he can get him playing to his capabilities, then he really is going to be a massive boost for the defensive attitude that he was hoping for his side. And already Newcastle having lots of possession, as you would expect, and Manchester City having to be very well organised.
Bernard cut out by Mills. Butt first to it though. Played in a few Manchester derbies in his time, Nicky Butt, of course. Only lost to City once. McManaman now for Sibierski. Bosvelt. Thatcher hugging the touchline, and McManaman finds him and promptly gets it back. Sibierski. McManaman. Macken. He's onside, but he's not going to get to it.
Well, it was a reasonably good play from Manchester City, good possession. That's what Kevin Keegan will be hoping from his side, certainly in this early period, try and take the sting out of a Newcastle performance. And Macken there, making a good run actually, beyond the two centre-backs, but the ball's just zipping away from this surface. It's a surface that has had an awful lot of rain on it over the last 24 hours.
Shearer flicking on, and Dunne recovers. Bumped Bellamy out of the way to do so. It's a foul by Bernard on Wright-Phillips.
Well, I think the Flans were claiming that there was an infringement against Craig Bellamy, but as this ball goes up in the air, Richard Dunne always going to have that advantage, isn't he, over Craig Bellamy, perhaps leading with that left arm. And I think that's why the fans felt that should have been a free kick to their side.
Here's Wright-Phillips. Anelka. Sibierski. Handball shouts from the fans again, but not from any of the players. It's Shay Given's ball.
Well, actually look for that particular move a lot, Manchester City, that diagonal ball from right to left. Sibierski is very good in the air.
Here's Bellamy. Now Jenas. Sharp move this, Bellamy! Very nearly turned it in. What an excellent effort from Craig Bellamy.
I think the smile is because he didn't know an awful lot about it. It's a fantastic ball from Jenas. And it looked as if one of the on-rushing midfield players was going to get into that. And really, Craig Bellamy just twists his neck at the last minute, scored a fabulous header against Charlton last weekend and very nearly directs that towards the top corner. I wonder how close David James would have got to that if it had just dipped under the crossbar.
O'Brien under pressure from Anelka and Macken. Shay Given making his 139th consecutive appearance in the Premiership. Second longest run, that behind, guess who? David James, who played in 159 successive matches for Liverpool. And here he is. Opposite end to Shay Given. John Macken. It's gone for the City throw off O'Brien.
A little bit of a misunderstanding between Robbie Elliott and Andy O'Brien. Robbie Elliott, over the last couple of years since he's been at this football club, hasn't had too many first-team opportunities, but now finds himself back in the side. Not only that, at the heart of the defence.
Danny Mills getting ready for one of his long throws. It was actually Nicky Butt who won it. Macken comes to meet the throw from Mills. Nicky Butt had the chance to clear. Mills in towards Sibierski, and O'Brien stayed calm. Jenas collecting Shearer's flick on. Sense of anticipation from the Newcastle fans. Shearer now gives it to Butt, who's warned by 50,000 that there's a man on. Carr now, and it's going to be a corner kick off McManaman.
Well, it was a decent ball in, wasn't it, from Alan Shearer? He's actually the player that you really want in and around the penalty spot, not trying to cross balls from right wing position, but Steve McManaman doing his duty well at the near post. And normally the delivery from set pieces is quite good from Newcastle, in particular Robert. And they do have some power from an aerial point of view. O'Brien, Elliott, and of course Alan Shearer.
Everyone's jostling for position. Referee's having a good look at that as Robert nips it in, and David James couldn't get near it.
Well, it was very close, isn't it? A terrific ball in from Laurent Robert, and Robbie Elliott does well. Just make sure that he gets himself between Danny Mills and David James. Goalkeeper can't come and take that. Unfortunately, there's no one coming around the back, but Kevin Keegan will be reasonably happy. They've done okay. Manchester City had a couple of isolated breaks, but no damage done so far.
Keegan, a legend in these parts, of course. Played for the club and managed them for 5 years in the 90s when he put together a really entertaining team to watch. And nearly won the title, of course. Now Jenas looking to open up Manchester City. Oh, and Sylvain Distin poked it behind for the corner.
Well, fabulous play, wasn't it, from Newcastle? What a great ball out, though, from Nicky Butt, and Jermaine Jenas takes this wonderfully well. On the side of his boots, sets himself up for a terrific ball into the box, and once again a City player coming to the near post covers the danger.
Newcastle hoping to make one of these corners count, but David James says that's mine. After it was floated in by Bowyer. Oh dear.
Well, you can see what he's trying. Afford the smile, can't he? David James has been in very good form of late. We thought Nicholas Anelka 1v1. He would go early, but the accuracy wasn't there, was it? Goalkeeper to goalkeeper.
Bellamy now receiving. There's nobody in the box yet. Still no one there for Newcastle.
Sometimes a problem, you know, when Craig Bellamy makes those quick breaks. It's very rare that anybody really can keep pace with him, so when he is going to try and knock balls into the box, as we've just seen there, you know, midfield players and other strikers are invariably 10 yards behind the pace.
McManaman. He's got it back from Anelka. Steve McManaman's cross for John Macken. And Olivier Bernard rescuing Newcastle.
Well, he had to be very careful there, you know, Olivier Bernard, Ian, because he could quite easily have fouled Jonathan Macken as that ball came into the box.
Robert now just allowed Sean Wright-Phillips to make the challenge. Free kick's been given against Robbie Elliott. Foul on Macken.
Well, it's very difficult, I think, at times for centre-halves when they're trying to win the ball honestly, and strikers are just backing into them, as we've just seen there.
Wright-Phillips is taken out by Laurent Robert, and another useful free kick for City.
Quite politely put, I think, taken out. Almost assassinated, I think. It really was a very wild lunge, wasn't it, from Robert? He was a little bit fortunate not to get a yellow card there.
Yeah, it sure was some hack from Robert. Thatcher delivers, and it's sent back by Macken.
That was well worked, wasn't it? It's a terrific delivery towards the far post from Ben Thatcher. I'm not sure how Jonathan Macken's found that type of space to just nonchalantly knock a ball back into the danger area. In the end, Newcastle grateful to clear. That's poor marking.
Thatcher getting ready for a long throw. Stephen Carr signed from Spurs just before the season began. He was in the Spurs team that lost 4-3 in the FA Cup to Manchester City last season after being 3-0 up. And Thatcher towards Anelka. Here's Bernard. Distin making sure that Bellamy wasn't going to sneak in, but in fact the free kick is given.
He's a real live wire, isn't he, Craig Bellamy? Certainly great nuisance value, and always looking to upset defenders.
But now trying to lift it through to Jenas, but McManaman stretched and got there. Here's John Macken. Nicky Butt's presence enough for Newcastle. Carr. Bowyer. Butt. Seeking out Laurent Robert.
That was another searching ball, wasn't it, from Nicky Butt? That's a couple of efforts that he's played from right to left, all of around about 20-25 yards. Unfortunately, Laurent Robert couldn't really take it first time. Felt that he should have had a corner for his efforts, but that ball looked as if it was over the line before it came off Danny Mills. But Newcastle just dropping the pace out of their performance. And this is always a problem. You know, they've had a long trip. They've been away to Greece for 3 days this week. And I'm not sure whether David James has got a mate in the crowd over there, but he seems to be successfully finding him.
Second time. Keegan less than impressed. He was smiling at the first one, David James, but not at that one. Wright-Phillips. Mills gets a second chance. In fact, he gets a chance to roam offside.
Well, the idea was good. Unfortunately, Nicholas Anelka just strayed offside. But I think that just shows you the emergence that Manchester City are having now in this game, that the fullbacks are beginning to join in with attack. So they feel confident enough that they can join in when they have the opportunity.
But for Bowyer, spins away from McManaman. Brilliant ball to Jenas. Free kick given against the Newcastle man, who was in such a good position as well.
Well, he's having to play wide right, Jenas, but wonderful play, wasn't it, from Lee Bowyer? Steve McManaman just fooled him to go in a different direction, and he sprayed it out wide. But Jenas playing on that right-hand side, it's not really a natural role for him. Very difficult to play against Ben Thatcher, very uncompromising defender.
Manchester City had a good start to last season, and just as well, because it soon went wrong for them and they flirted with relegation. Ended up a bit too close for comfort to the drop zone.
I just think they've looked better defensively. I think that was their big problem over the last couple of years here. You know, they conceded so many points because they gave a lot of poor defensive displays, whereas this season, you know, they've only conceded 7 goals in the league, and they look nice and strong, well organised, and it's been a long time since people have said that about Manchester City.
Yes, Manchester City have conceded less goals in the Premiership than Arsenal.
Just look at Newcastle, you know, they've conceded 14 goals, so you know, double the amount of Manchester City, so there's clearly something right going on.
Distin is down and will need some treatment by the look of it.
It's not getting an awful lot of sympathy, is it, from the Newcastle fans? Sylvain Distin, of course, a player here for a while, played with Alan Shearer, and it's a very strong battle, isn't it, between those two. It's certainly important that City get their skipper up and running around again. Seemed to take a knock to the back, and whether Alan Shearer caught him in that region with his knee. It's, just inquiring the Newcastle skipper into the well-being of the Manchester City skipper.
And a few minutes ago they were shaking hands and smiling as they prepared for kick-off. Distin was here in the 2001-2002 season.
Just actually noticed Craig Bellamy, who's had that much publicised spat with Graham Souness this week, smiling with Ben Thatcher, and that's a number of occasions, and we'd far rather see Craig Bellamy in that sort of mood than the sort of snarling tirade of abuse that he came out with his manager last weekend.
Yes, he is playing with a smile on his face today. Wright-Phillips has stayed down. Just as they got Distin patched up, they might need to attend to Wright-Phillips now.
It's not really got going, has it, this football match? It's been very stop-start. Newcastle have carved out the best chances, as you would expect. And there's been incidents like that, not malicious. Players going down with back injuries or head injuries. And of course, the referee having to stop play. But it hasn't really helped the flow of this football match.
Wright-Phillips scored on this ground on his England debut against the Ukraine. He'll be 23 tomorrow. Newcastle fans hoping that they're going to see the best of Bowyer this season.
Well, he's a quality player and he hasn't really hit the high notes with these Newcastle fans so far. But again, another player, Ian, that's had to play in a number of positions. And of course, they can still rely on their skipper, Shearer. He really has got a phenomenal goal-scoring record. And 21 goals behind the legendary Jackie Milburn. He said he's going to retire at the end of the season, but I just wonder how tempting that would be if he didn't break the record this season, and he may well just go on for one more.
Macken with a flick on. Andy O'Brien has to take it away from Anelka's path. Both these teams have Carling Cup games ahead in the week. Both of them are at home. Newcastle take on Norwich here on Wednesday, and on the same night, Manchester City face Arsenal.
It'll certainly be very interesting to see the sides that they all play this week, because I'm sure Kevin Keegan may well give the opportunity to blood one or two young players. A couple that are on his bench today, Stephen Jordan and Willow Flood. And I'm sure Newcastle will take that opportunity also, because as we've already identified here, they've had a lot of games in a short space of time.
Carr. Jenas. Thatcher hounded him, and so too did Macken, and Macken's got the free kick. Frustrating for Jenas.
Yeah, he's been involved in a couple of those type of incidents where Man City players have looked to put him under pressure very quickly.
Thatcher takes. Andy O'Brien won it. Wright-Phillips on the volley, but it's over and out.
That was a difficult one to take, wasn't it? We'll be a little disappointed that he didn't do better with it. Certainly not to have worked the goalkeeper. So we can hear the Manchester City fans over to our left-hand side, and they're in great voice, and you would expect, because they've seen their side give a good performance so far.
Well, after beating Chelsea last week, Manchester City hoping for back-to-back wins in the Premiership, but that's something they haven't achieved for 18 months. It's going to be a big ask for them to win on this ground. Dunne's been fouled by Bernard.
I'd love to know what the free kick count is, because I would imagine it's incredibly high. It only really enforces what we were talking about moments earlier about the lack of the rhythm within this football match.
It has been rather bitty. No real pattern emerging yet. Sibierski helps it on, but it's away by O'Brien. Thatcher. Advantage play, because that might have been a shove by Carr on Sibierski, but now he's got the free kick. Ricky Butt looking to put Bellamy through, but overcooked it.
A little bit unfortunate. Could really have just done with a little bit more flight on that, but Craig Bellamy always eager.
As you can see, David James turned away from the incoming Bellamy. Alan Shearer. Newcastle's throw.
That was a wonderful play, wasn't it, from David James? And that's one that I'm sure he'll be reminding Craig Bellamy of a little bit later.
Jenas. Powered away by Dunne and then by McManaman, but here's Olivier Bernard. It's nicely done this from Bernard. A handball shot, but the referee had a very good view. Sibierski. Anelka. It's going to go wayward.
Well, that's a big decision for the referee there, because if Newcastle had got a free kick, and in my view they deserve to get it, because that ball clearly hits the arm of Richard Dunne, and the referee has a great view of it. There you can see the referee's position. The ball skips up off Wright-Phillips, and that's what, round about 20 yards, and that's Alan Shearer territory.
Anelka. Sibierski takes over for Manchester City. They only had Macken in the box. It was never going to reach him. And here's Laurent Robert. Bernard. Tyne trying to do their bit. Newcastle trying to spark this game into life.
What Manchester City have done well, Ian, is that they have made it very difficult for Newcastle in wide areas. We normally come here at St James's Park, and the home side have a lot of possession, but they also have good width in their play. And because of that, they tend to rein in great crosses from the left-hand side and the right. But because Man City have done a very good job at not allowing Newcastle that much width, it's made it a very narrow performance from the home team.
Macken. Mills. Danny Mills was involved in a bit of a scrap with Craig Bellamy when Leeds played Newcastle a few years ago, resulting in a red card for Mills, kicking out at the Welshman. Macken, McManaman, Sibierski nearby as an option. Distin. Stumble from Shearer. Dunne. Diverted off Bellamy, but Bernard merely presenting Manchester City with a throw.
I think if I was Kevin Keegan now, I'd really be looking for my football team to get slightly more ambitious, because there's certainly opportunities here for them. You know, Newcastle look a little bit tired. Passing has just been bits and pieces, been an awful lot created from the home side, and you know, City have looked very comfortable in dealing with whatever Newcastle have had to throw at them.
Newcastle were in Greece on Thursday, the first game in the group stage of the UEFA Cup. They beat Ameobi by 1-0. I think that's how you say it anyway.
I'll take your word for it. I'm sure it was close enough.
Thatcher being urged to get a move on. Macken. Newcastle fortunate that didn't break into Anelka's path. Shearer taking on Distin. Snuffed out though. Now Macken. Elliott sends it to Jenas. Keep up with nowhere to turn apart from O'Brien. Here's Bernard. Towards Bowyer. Just couldn't quite bring it under control.
Well, that's better. It needs somebody breaking from midfield, as we've just seen from Bowyer there. And well, Distin still looks a little bit uncomfortable at the moment with that back injury that he incurred. The challenger Alan Shearer.
And Bernard's surely going to get a card for that. He is. Clearly tucked on to Wright-Phillips then, and the first booking of the game is going to be shown. I'm going to go to Olivier Bernard.
Yeah, you can have no complaints about it. Wonderful play from Wright-Phillips. There's not too many opportunities to run at Olivier Bernard, and when he did get the opportunity, Bernard quite crudely pulled him back. You can see there that Wright-Phillips was in behind the Newcastle United left back. And interesting that Distin came over to the bench to have a word with his manager Kevin Keegan. And I'm sure Keegan will be hoping that his centre-back and captain was just reassuring him that he's okay.
Danny Mills to take. I suspect this might be a long throw for Ben Thatcher, although McManaman could make himself available. He's certainly taking his time over these throw-ins. Thatcher does go long towards Sibierski. But Bernard, intricate from Newcastle, and it just came off Danny Mills' boot.
Well, it was a great shame, because Newcastle United were breaking in great numbers, and if only Olivier Bernard had seen the run from Jenas, he'd gone from right to central. Clever play, wasn't it, from Nicky Butt, just tidying up the situation extremely well. And this is where they had a lot of bodies forward, Newcastle. But once again, that final pass let them down.
So giving up towards Shearer, but it's won by Distin. Comes down to Butt though. Bellamy. McManaman gives it away to Jenas. The football hasn't exactly flowed at St James's Park so far. Here's Butt though, and it's blocked by Bosvelt. Bowyer has to try again. And he's picked out Laurent Robert now. Something might come of this. Oh, it's teasing from Robert, but taken by David James.
Well, that's the first example that we've seen Newcastle really get down this left-hand side and play a very searching ball into the box. And that's what I was talking about earlier. And you tend to come to St James's Park and see lots of moves like that from Newcastle United, but because Man City have stifled that width about the home team's play, they found it difficult to create anything really from wide areas.
Well, Craig Bellamy is going to make a game attempt to get to this. Richard Dunne has suddenly noticed him. He's got to be careful. Thatcher. It's bounced off Macken, who seemed to have a problem with his boot.
Well, he's certainly very game, isn't he, Jonathan Macken? Hasn't got too many goals to his name this season, but he works incredibly hard for the team.
Anelka. Sibierski for Sean Wright-Phillips. And Andy O'Brien alert.
Well, he was. A great shame he just wasted it by kicking the ball out, but once again, good footwork from Sean Wright-Phillips. Very nearly worked a very clever opening for himself.
Well, Robert might still give Danny Mills a chance, and Bernard has to concede the corner.
Well, there you can see the clever footwork, really. Sean Wright-Phillips just threading the ball through Bernard's legs. O'Brien covering, as you would expect to see him, but unfortunately giving the ball away carelessly.
Anelka sends it back to Wright-Phillips, who will lose out here to Robert. Bellamy up ahead. McManaman minding the shot. Bellamy would have been offside anyway. City being allowed to carry on, and now Anelka is offside himself.
Yeah, again, it's the epitome of the first half, isn't it? Both sides giving the ball away at crucial moments. You expect far better quality from players that we've seen here today. Sean Wright-Phillips guilty there of giving the ball away. Nicholas Anelka straight offside. We saw moments earlier Bernard giving the ball straight to Steve McManaman, so it's been that type of performance from both teams in this first 45 minutes.
Jenas fouled by Mills.
Well, Jermaine and Jenas has decided now to come away from that right-hand position and try and play more centrally, but all it's doing really is putting more bodies in that area of the field and making it easier really for Manchester City to defend, but defending they have to do now from the set piece from Bowyer, and certainly looks as if he's lining this one up.
He could do with the goal, Laurent Robert, but he's going to be kept waiting. Referee has decided to have a word with Thatcher.
His actual goals to shots ratio is not that great because you see him having a lot of efforts on goal.
Here comes Laurent Robert, and it took a deflection en route. It'll be a corner kick.
I don't think that would have been far away, you know. It's a tremendous strike. I mean, even just to try your luck from that sort of distance, and that would have troubled David James for sure. Danny Mills it was, it cannoned off.
Laurent Robert takes. O'Brien was the nearest Newcastle man to it. Robert's going to get another chance. Nicky Butt might just get a chance to strike it. He does. And Bowyer too. And a fair bit on it from Lee Bowyer, but David James behind it. Thatcher racing away. McManaman. Mills. On a fair way, Danny Mills onto his left foot. Bosvelt. Bellamy is first to it. Jenas is going to try and send Robert on his way again. It's a perfect pass. Promising for Newcastle. In from Robert. And Bowyer! And it's blocked by Bosvelt. And Newcastle squander the opportunity to go ahead. Bernardo looking to ask questions of Manchester City again.
Well, that's far better, isn't it, from the home side, and there's no coincidence it's come from moves down this left-hand side, and Robert certainly the instigator. But really Newcastle ought to have been 1-0 ahead. Lee Bowyer, what a wonderful chance this was. It really did fall invitingly for him, almost having too much time, tries to pick his spot. I have to say full credit to Paul Bosvelt because he was certainly in the right position to clear.
Robert sent it in. Bowyer now, and Nicky Butt has a snapshot.
Always leaning back, Nicky Butt. Scored a very good goal a few weeks ago at Birmingham City, opened his account, of course, for Newcastle United. But there's one or two more strikes now raining in on David James's goal, and it's only going to help the home side lift their performance.
The tempo raised a little. Nicholas Anelka is toiling a bit for Manchester City, which will be a major concern for them.
Yes, it will, and I think they'll be hoping they might just get him through to the interval, but he isn't moving particularly comfortable at the moment, and I'm sure Kevin Keegan won't want to do too much damage to whatever injury he has, because he is a massive player for Manchester City.
Last 5 minutes of the first half. McManaman now for Anelka. Bosvelt. Macken. Anelka! Shea Given watching it all the way.
Well, maybe that injury's not that bad after all. Certainly perked up a little bit. Got himself involved in this move on a couple of occasions. Clever little reverse ball from Jonathan Macken. It's a half chance, nothing more than that. Very nearly makes it into a goal though.
It's just going to skip away from Robert.
The dilemma Kevin will have is that how long does he give Nicholas Anelka, because if he leaves him on the field he may do further damage, and if he does further damage then that will make perhaps the injury worse, and the fact that he'll be out a lot longer. So we'll have to monitor that situation carefully, but we're very close to half-time.
David James, who is not having much joy with his kicking today, but he certainly didn't want the ball back then.
Well, I don't think either of them really wanted to deal with the situation, did they?
Jermaine Jenas, it'll be a Manchester City throw.
There's going to be a couple of problems for Kevin Keegan to deal with at half-time, and one is Nicholas Anelka, and of course the other one Sylvain Distin. He took that knock against Alan Shearer, who hasn't looked that comfortable, but at the moment, the City manager will certainly be a lot happier than the Newcastle United manager.
Dunne's header, now McManaman away towards Sibierski. Half-time approaching at St James's Park, no goals between Newcastle and Manchester City. Sibierski showed far too much of that to Carr and then caught him. Left his foot in, free kick for Newcastle.
Well, Sibierski there, it's clumsy, isn't it? He had good possession of the ball, and it's about really counting the clock down to half-time. Fourth official just about to put the board up to indicate how much more we have of this first half.
Bellamy now trying to set up Bowyer, who'd made the run. But and Bosvelt both went for it. Sibierski sent back towards him by Elliott. Here's Jenas though. But Bowyer. And Newcastle make an impact before half-time. Wright-Phillips will stop it going to Robert for now. Bernard's cross towards Shearer, but Distin made sure that he wasn't going to get near it.
Yeah, I think on the main that Manchester City will be absolutely delighted with their defensive display, and once more you have to say, we talked about it at the top, they defended a lot better of late, and we're seeing more evidence of that in this first half.
But trying to be a driving force, now Bowyer takes over. Still hanging in there. Stephen Carr's cross won't reach Bellamy. Bosvelt screening his defence. Bernard. Bounced off Macken. We're in the last minute of the first half. Anelka.
It's a decent out ball though, isn't it? Danny Mills turning defence into attack. Just knocking that ball towards the corner flag, trying to utilise the pace of Nicholas Anelka. Good composed defending from Robbie Elliott.
2 minutes added on in this first half. It's a game that hasn't really taken off yet, but so often in football, when you get a first half like this, you get a second half where it all happens.
Let's hope so. Certainly look very weary, don't they, the Newcastle United players, and they've had one or two moments, haven't they, where they've looked capable of getting a goal. But other than that, it's been a little bit of a slog for the players in the black and white shirts. I just think perhaps Manchester City can get a little bit more ambitious in the second period, and they might fancy their chances of getting something out of this football match.
Well, it's Danny Mills to take this free kick for the visitors. Nothing doing there. And it shaves the corner flag and goes for a goal kick. Newcastle hoping to extend their unbeaten run to 9 games. Manchester City looking to build on that victory over Chelsea last week. Jenas, now Shearer. Here's Stephen Carr. It breaks down for Newcastle. It's been that kind of half.
Well, both sides really have given the ball away far too much, and with the quality that should be on show, that is bitterly disappointing.
Andy O'Brien doing the mopping up. Shearer challenging Thatcher. Paul Gascoigne amongst those watching what has been a rather dreary first half, high on effort, but then you'd expect that. Quite low on quality though, and you wouldn't really expect that. It's been a frustrating first half for Newcastle, that's for sure. Kevin Keegan will be pretty pleased against his former club. At the break, it's Newcastle United 0, Manchester City 0. Welcome back to St James's Park, and we are hoping for better things in the second half here after a first half that was lacking in quality, lacking in a few other things as well. No changes on either side. Newcastle being kept waiting a bit by Manchester City and by the ref, but here they come. Certainly Kevin Keegan will be content with the way his team have performed so far on his return to Tyne side, because his record when he's come back here hasn't been great. 3 games, 3 defeats, no goals. It looks in fact as if Robbie Fowler is going to be coming on, where we were initially told no changes, but Fowler is about to make an appearance for Manchester City.
Looks as if Nicholas Anelka is the player to be withdrawn. Of course, Anelka struggling just before half-time. We saw him come and have a couple of conversations with Kevin Keegan about the state of his injury, so they're not going to gamble on him.
So a change at the start of the second half. Nicholas Anelka unable to continue through injury, and he's replaced by Robbie Fowler, who was involved in those memorable Liverpool-Newcastle games of a few years ago, and Fowler, in fact, scored in both those 4-3 wins. Nicholas Anelka has a groin strain, we hear. Bernard. Bosvelt. Macken. Manchester City busy at the start of the half, but it's going to slither through to Shea Given.
I'm sure Kevin Keegan would have been saying to his players at half-time, you know, you've got a real chance here. Newcastle are not at their best. I'm sure Graham won't be particularly pleased with his side's first half performance. They can only get better. And Manchester City, perhaps a little bit more ambition in this football match and a little bit more creativity, can carve out 1 or 2 more chances.
Well, they have been relying heavily on Nicholas Anelka for their goals in the Premiership this season, but they've lost him to injury, and it's Fowler and Macken now up front. Macken for Wright-Phillips. Doesn't reach Fowler. Elliott made sure of that. Robert, hopeful. Distin will turn it back to David James.
Certainly cope with most things, haven't they, the 2 centre-backs for Manchester City, Sylvain Distin and Richard Dunne. 2 full-backs, of course, more than accomplished, both internationals for Wales and England respectively, but really Newcastle haven't put them under sustained pressure.
Stephen Carr going for the return here. He's got to it, Stephen Carr. Delightful delivery for Shearer.
A terrific move. I talked about the benefits that Newcastle seem to get when they get into wide areas. This time it was on the right-hand side. Clever little 1-2 between Jenas and Stephen Carr. McManaman gave up on it a little bit, but Stephen Carr did superbly well to clip that ball towards the far post. And that really is Alan Shearer territory, and he'll be bitterly disappointed he hasn't hit the target with that. Perhaps Danny Mills just did enough to put him off.
Bernard. But Elliott. Robert now for Bernard. Newcastle trying to get into their stride. They certainly didn't manage that in the first half. Look a bit jaded, a bit weary. Here's Butler. He's going to get a free kick, taken out by Bosvelt.
That was very clumsy, wasn't it? It's a terrific first touch from Nicky, but smart ball from Laurent Robert. It looks as if he's lined himself up for a shot, but you can see there that Bosvelt's made a very clumsy challenge, and this really will present Manchester City with problems, because really either Shearer or Robert, they can go either side with this. It's going to be crucial that David James gets his wall absolutely spot on.
Well, Shearer's walking away. It's a job for Laurent Robert, seemingly. Jenas also standing near the free kick. Referee wants the wall back a bit to add to the tension at St James's Park. It is Laurent Robert! It is very special! What a way to end a goal-scoring drought. His first since March. It was marvellous.
Well, the game needed a goal, Ian. The fans needed something to cheer about, and they've got that now. It's a wonderful strike, isn't it? Talked about the importance of getting your wall right, but I have to say the delivery from the free kick, and he actually slips over when he executes a beautifully flighted strike. And you can see there, he completely loses his footing. He does brilliantly, really, to get that ball up and over the wall and direct it just inside David James' left-hand side post, and the goalkeeper can do nothing about it. And certainly memories, shall we say, of Euro 2004.
Well, he'd gone 23 Premiership games without scoring, Laurent Robert. Here's Richard Dunne with an inspirational run, and he's not quite able to keep his feet. Now Jenas. Newcastle in the mood now. That's going to be a yellow card for Paul Bosvelt, who knew exactly what he was doing.
Well, the fuss is really about the fact that Manchester City felt they should have had a free kick at the other end of the field when Richard Dunne went on that rampaging run. But clearly this is a foul on Jermaine Jenas, and it's Paul Bosvelt's second foul in a matter of minutes. Of course, he was the culprit that made the tackle against Nicky Butt that Newcastle United scored from the resulting free kick, but now it's all about Newcastle United.
Well, Bosvelt joins Newcastle's Olivier Bernard in the book. It's another free kick, a bit further out this time.
Well, we can have another look at it again, and it was a wonderful strike, wasn't it? But just have a look there, he loses his foot in Laurent Robert just at the crucial time, but he still manages to find the target. And well, he's had his problems at this football club, and he's trying to show the fans how much it means to him still.
Well, he might be in the mood to have another pop after that cracking opener. Laurent Robert goes for it again. Sean Wright-Phillips broke out from the wall, and he certainly would have felt that. It's knocked him sideways. Here's Bernard. And it goes, and David James not getting too close to it, as Bellamy threatened.
Well, Richard Dunne did superbly well there, because if he'd allowed his goalkeeper to come and claim, I don't think David James would have got close to Craig Bellamy. So Dunne had to deal with it, and he dealt with it very effectively.
Oh, Shearer with a dummy, and Bowyer unable to latch onto it. Wright-Phillips now for McManaman. Sibierski for Fowler. Macken waiting in the middle. Macken's return. We hear that Macken actually is struggling with a bit of a back problem, but they've already lost Nicholas Anelka in this game to injury, so they'll have to battle on for now. Newcastle sensing they really can take control by going in search of a second.
There's a little bit more pace to their performance. We talked about it in the first half, they looked very lethargic. I'm sure Graham had one or two words to say to his players, really just to try and lift them.
Bosvelt. Sibierski. Here's McManaman. Sibierski again. Macken. Danny Mills. Wright-Phillips. There by Bernard.
It's good defending from Olivier Bernard. Watched the ball very carefully. It's been a good battle that this afternoon between Wright-Phillips and Olivier Bernard. Wright-Phillips trying to get to the byline. Now they've got a long throw to defend against Newcastle, and they can't afford to let this lead slip.
Mills with a long throw. Wright-Phillips with a challenge. It nearly came to McManaman. Bosvelt now. McManaman. Fowler's lost out to Carr.
Well, very similar really that we saw on the left-hand side, this time on the right. Stephen Carr watching the ball very carefully.
Sibierski, and here's Fowler, and the flag does go up belatedly.
Well, it does look nice and bright, doesn't he, Robbie Fowler? There's been a lot of talk about the fact that he hasn't been fit for long periods in his time at Manchester City, but I'm not sure whether he's offside here. That chest pass from Anton Sibierski, if you'd seen Olivier Bernard's position, looked as if he was level.
So it took the assistant referee a long time to put his flag up. Shearer's flicked it on, and Craig Bellamy sends it across for Bowyer, who's coming in, but James scrambles.
Well, unselfish play, wasn't it, from Craig Bellamy? Spotted the run of Lee Bowyer. It was very route one, wasn't it? Shearer with a little flick, Bellamy's pace, smart thinking. Unfortunately, the ball just has a little bit too much pace on it.
Robert now for Bellamy. And Shearer, it's hacked away by Thatcher, and Manchester City are going to have to replace John Macken. They are going to lose both their first choice strikers to injury in this game. Anelka off at half-time with a groin strain, and Macken is about to be replaced by young Willow Flood. Shearer now, and Stephen Carr. David James brings him down. It's a penalty, and what will the punishment be for James?
Well, you wonder whether the ball was just wide enough to perhaps persuade the referee, Steve Dunne, that a penalty is just enough, and that looks as if that's the case. But Steve McManaman was a player that gave the ball away, and Steve Carr rampaging through. Clearly is a penalty. And now the opportunity for Alan Shearer to put his side 2-0 ahead. And it's that type of drive and determination now that's made Newcastle look a far better side in this second period.
Yes, no punishment for James, that's fair. Penalty for Newcastle, that's fair. The hush around St James's Park as the number 9 gets himself focused. Alan Shearer, spot on, perfect penalty into the corner. Shearer is the talk of the tune again, and Newcastle are in firm control.
Well, if you want one player on that football field to keep calm and composed at a crucial time, then Alan Shearer is that man. From the penalty spot, a wonderful strike. David James goes the wrong way. Newcastle now very much in the driving seat, having played poorly in the first half, but now finding that little bit of energy and certainly that resurgence of form. It's seen them now take a commanding lead against Manchester City, and now just to add to the woes and the problems, City having to withdraw a striker and put on a midfield player.
Yes, John Macken has gone off with a back injury, and Irish under-21 international Willow Flood, wearing 44, has come on. It's only his 4th appearance for Manchester City. He has scored for them this season, but that was against Barnsley in a 7-1 Carling Cup victory. Sibierski, as City look for a quick response. They might yet manage it. Wright-Phillips has got a corner.
Well, Wright-Phillips now will play as a more central striker alongside Robbie Fowler. Willow Flood will go and play wide right, but it's going to take an almighty effort now for Manchester City to get back into this football match. I said at half-time, really, Newcastle could only play better, and Man City needed to step up with the pace, and perhaps there would have been something here from them, but not now. Not when you feel that the home side has that distinct advantage.
McManaman takes. Fowler lurking, but Newcastle not too bothered by it all, really. Aaron Hughes is going to have to come on here because Stephen Carr is hobbling after he made that run that led to the penalty. He was brought down by David James. Carr has quickly become a favourite with the Newcastle fans, but his game is over. On comes the usually reliable Aaron Hughes, though.
Well, he's an all-action type of player, isn't he, Stephen Carr? And you can understand why he's become such a massive favourite here at St James's Park. But Aaron Hughes is also a man for all occasions. He can play anywhere across the back line, so he'll slot quite comfortably into that right-back position.
Newcastle United sitting pretty on a 2-0 lead. They may have looked tired in the first half, but they've certainly woken up in the second. It's a foul by O'Brien on Wright-Phillips.
It's amazing when the energy levels go up when you do get a goal, because there's a lot more belief now about Newcastle United's performance.
Stephen Carr, we hear, has an ankle injury, but he made a positive contribution, securing a penalty. And there's a long way back for Manchester City now, who've lost both their strikers injured. They were short on midfield players anyway. McManaman floats it in, and Willow Flood nearly made a name for himself. Rather unusual name as well.
It's fairly apt with the weather that we're having at the moment, that is for sure. The problem is Manchester City now need to chase the game, Ian, and they're going to leave an awful lot of gaps. Another occasion where Robbie Fowler has found himself offside, another tight decision. The referee's assistant just pointing that Robbie Fowler was the culprit.
Looks at the moment as if it might be 4 defeats out of 4 for Kevin Keegan on his returns to St James's Park with Manchester City.
Well, they've only won one away from home this season anyway, so they haven't really come into this game with a great track record.
Bosvelt for Distin, still getting jeered by the Newcastle fans, a former St James's Park player. Jenas, he's got the free kick, but would have been quite happy to carry on anyway, I think.
I think the referee's just apologising there. I think he realises that Jermaine Jenas did have good possession there, showing good strength. Ben Thatcher very eager to get after the ball and trying to get possession back for his side.
Bowyer. Newcastle looking to extend their unbeaten run to 9 games. 8 of those would have been under Graham Souness. The first was against Souness' former club Blackburn. He had to sit that one out, having just left Ewood Park. Officially took over just after that game. Wright-Phillips has lost his way, and so have Manchester City, really. There you go. Newcastle again. Shearer's cross. It's come off Craig Bellamy.
Didn't know an awful lot about it, did he? Once again, he can smile about it. He's had a couple of occasions where that's happened to him. Fantastic play from Alan Shearer. Not just the power and the strength that he just managed to get himself away from Distin, but the ability to play the ball into such a dangerous area. And once it had skipped past Richard Dunne, Craig Bellamy knows nothing about this really, other than it hits him off the thigh. And that could quite easily have gone anywhere, but unfortunately for Bellamy, it went over the bar, but really is a rampage in Newcastle United at the moment.
Keegan making his feelings known on the touchline. Mills for Wright-Phillips. Oh, big chance. Sean Wright-Phillips. Oh, he's taken it brilliantly. Wonderful from Wright-Phillips, and he hauls Manchester City back into this game.
Well, I thought this game was put out of doubt really, but Sean Wright-Phillips really has given them a lifeline. But have a look at the first touch here. This ball really fired into him. A wonderful first touch. Robbie Elliott really a little bit ambitious, trying to get after the ball when it was played up to Sean Wright-Phillips. Just have a look at there. Robbie Elliott's trying to make the challenge far too early, and then Sean Wright-Phillips' first touch takes him into a great area, and the finish really is emphatic. And I think I'm right in saying, is that the goal that he scored here for England against the Ukraine? That's a wonderful strike.
Yes, he's got one for club and country at St James's Park, but Lee Bowyer nearly saw an opening then. It just wouldn't settle for him. And Sean Wright-Phillips scored on his England debut on this ground. He's now beaten Shea Given, and Manchester City, who looked down and out, suddenly right back in it.
Well, they had the game under control, didn't they? And Manchester City, when you looked around at their players, they looked a little bit despondent. It didn't look as if they had that belief to get back into this football match. But if you've got somebody in your side like Sean Wright-Phillips who can come up with a little bit of magic that we've just seen there, then you always do have a chance. And now Newcastle need to be very alert here.
Manchester City's severely depleted after losing their strikers, but suddenly they have a bit of belief. Thanks to this man, Sean Wright-Phillips. And if anyone was going to make it happen for them, you'd expect it to be him.
It just shows how capable he is to adapt to a different type of role. I mean, we traditionally see him playing wide right, and really we've just seen him now in typical striker's pose, and it's a fantastic finish. Shea Given, who is one of the best keepers around, has no chance.
Kept in by Fowler, Sibierski, and Fowler again. And, oh, it's a penalty as Fowler is tripped, and Manchester City have the chance to equalise.
Absolutely incredible. I really thought Manchester City were out of this football match. 2-0 down, having lost both their strikers to injury, Macken and Anelka, and now they have an opportunity to draw on level terms. And I actually think Nicky Butt gets something of the ball there before he catches Robbie Fowler. They're very close to each other, but that looks as if he gets a touch there, Nicky Butt. I think that's a poor decision by the referee.
Well, he's got a yellow card, Nicky Butt, as well, to add to Newcastle's woes. Shearer scored at one end from the spot for Newcastle. Fowler steps up at the other, and he scores just as coolly. It's 2-2, and after a forgettable first half, the second half is becoming memorable.
Well, it's incredible, you know. We had a lot of talk about Kevin Keegan getting the spirit right within the camp, you know, having a lot of bonding sessions, and they've actually shown great spirit to get back into this football match. And I talked about the coolness and the composure of Alan Shearer. Well, what about that for a cool taken penalty from Robbie Fowler? And I have to say, since his introduction, he's looked very bright, looked very sharp. They spent a lot of work on his fitness over the last couple of weeks, and how their manager is enjoying the moment now, and that wasn't the case some 10 minutes ago.
The 199th goal of Robbie Fowler's career. Manchester City, having been 2-0 down and out of it, find themselves level, and Sibierski now looking for the run of young Willow Flood. And Newcastle severely rattled. And ironically, it was Graham Souness who gave Fowler his debut at Liverpool. Back come Newcastle though, and a free kick for Jenas now. What a second half.
That's incredible, isn't it? I can't believe we're still watching the same game as we saw in the first 45 minutes, but Not convinced again. There was an awful lot wrong there because Jenas looked as if he'd overrun the ball. I think he's very fortunate. And once again, this will be Laurent Robert territory. And again, he finds himself perhaps with a strike on goal from some distance.
Who'd have thought it? 2-2. Robert lifting it in. Oh, it's come off the post. And Manchester City can't keep it out. And Elliott celebrates. And in this amazing second half, it's now Newcastle 3, Manchester City 2. And this is gobsmacking stuff.
Well, I tell you what, the Manchester City players will be absolutely furious with Steve Dunne because they felt all along that wasn't a free kick. But Newcastle, it doesn't matter to them. It's a wonderfully flighted ball from Laurent Robert. And Robbie Elliott, well, he really does arch his head and his neck to get a header on goal, hits the post, and then there's an almighty scramble. And I can't believe Richard Dunne hasn't been able to clear this because he gets enough attempts here to try and clear the danger. And what a season it's turning out to be for Robbie Elliott. A player that certainly wasn't figuring that often in Bobby Robson's thoughts, now finds himself in the side on a regular basis, and not only that, finds himself as a goal scorer.
That's Robbie Elliott's first goal for 3 years. Shearer and Bellamy were desperately trying to help it into the net, but they get enough. Give it to Elliott. There's a flag up here against Hughes, although Shearer hadn't even passed it yet.
Emotions are running high now in both camps. But really, that was a goal that ought not to have happened. David James would be absolutely furious. His side have got themselves back into the game, 2-0 down, get the 2-2, and that's when you have to concentrate, that's when you focus.
Well, it's going to be another change here with Laurent Robert coming off, and it was he who scored the first goal in this game. It seems a very long time ago now, even though it was in the second half. Laurent Robert is replaced by James Milner. The 18-year-old comes on.
Well, he's had a big impact, hasn't he, Laurent Robert? We can see the goal again. It's a clever header from Robbie Elliott, just out of the reach of David James and then out of the reach of Richard Dunne, who tried frantically to clear it, and give some credit to Alan Shearer because he was putting Richard Dunne under a lot of pressure.
Well, Manchester City have come back from worse in this game. They were 2 down, got it back to 2-2. Now they're going to have to do it all over again. It's a corner kick for Manchester City. Who knows what will happen next here? This is his sort of game.
Well, it is, and I was just about to say, he's used to all this, isn't he? You know, and a lot of games, of course, he managed here at St James's Park. And these teams are about attacking, and they're going to have some attacking to do now.
McManaman takes, and Sibierski with a header. And Mills in there as well, but it dropped wide. It's a goal kick. There we were bemoaning the quality of the first half, and there certainly were very few chances in the opening 45, but these two teams were saving it all for the second half.
I think they were worried that a lot of people will go off and watch Manchester United against Arsenal. Well, that's not going to happen now, is it? Because this really is gripping stuff.
McManaman. Mills threading it through. It's Sean Wright-Phillips again. Can he score again? No, not this time. Oh, wow.
What a chance. What a chance, because they were off their feet. They thought he'd scored. And he does everything right here, Sean Wright-Phillips, from the run to the touch past Shay Given. It's a little bit of a tight angle, but you really would have expected him to have converted that opportunity, because that's the moment where it went horribly wrong for him.
Well, it should have been 3-3. I didn't think I'd be saying that at half-time, I have to admit. Milner on as a sub. Bowyer. Now Bellamy. Well, he's got past Mills, but we'll still have to contend with him. I don't think the referee even knows whose ball that is, to be honest.
He's letting the players decide. Well, by the way, Mr. Referee, that ball is out. Let me remind you of the rules. Well, this game's just about had everything. Oh, incredible stuff. Actually, Kevin's now with the board. He's taken over from the fourth official. He's going to try and substitute the referee. Oh dear.
What a frankly bizarre second half it's been, and Kevin Keegan still fuming with Graham Salisbury, the fourth official. That would have been a first if Keegan had held up the board. The ref.
This is one of those games that the managers and the coaches can't do an awful lot about, because there's some sloppy defending but there's some wonderful attacking play. So as much as you're trying to tell defenders to maintain your focus and your concentration, there just seems to be chance after chance happening.
Sibierski now sending it across, and Jenas calmly back to Shea Given with Willow Flood right behind him. Jenas gets the free kick.
That's clever enough, wasn't it? Once again, bought the free kick. He just ran into Paul Bosvelt. And I just wonder, when that third goal went in, how Kevin Keegan may look at the tape again and feel that it was a cheap free kick to give away, because it looked to me as if Jenas went to ground far too easily from the challenge from Paul Bosvelt.
Well, there's 15 minutes to go and we don't want it to stop now. Distin wary of Bellamy's presence.
Well, they were on such a high, weren't they, Manchester City, when that equaliser went in, and now the stuffing really has been knocked out of them once more, but they've got to respond. They've got to show exactly the same sort of strength of character and spirit that they showed from coming back from 2-0 down.
Push from Andy O'Brien on Fowler.
Nice and bright, hasn't he, Robbie Fowler, since he's come into this football match? Picked up the pace of the game very quickly. Because he won the penalty, and it has to be said also in controversial circumstances. I did think at the time Nicky Butt got something on the ball.
Mills in towards Dunne, it's eluded him. It's going to be a Manchester City throw. Nobody at St James's Park in this second half is quite sure what to expect next. It's a sort of game where you have to expect the unexpected. Distin's long throw, and Sean Wright-Phillips! Oh yes, he has scored again, and this incredible game takes yet another twist, and it's 3-3.
Well, in situations like that, from long throw-ins, in many respects you've got to defend the second ball as importantly as the first one, and this is what Newcastle United failed to do. That's the first one. They do okay there. Now this is when it drops in vitally. There's enough bodies around the situation, but Sean Wright-Phillips finds a little glimmer of light, and that glimmer of light has brought Manchester City a crucial equaliser, because the goalkeeper Shea Given can do nothing about it once it's gone through the legs of a Newcastle United player. And Graham Souness and Kevin Keegan have seen an awful lot in their football career, and here is another chapter to write.
I put a bet on 3-3 at half-time, actually, didn't you?
Well, I'm going home with you, because I would imagine you'll have got an incredibly good price.
Well, they saw a few crazy games during Kevin Keegan's time in charge at St James's Park. This has been one of the craziest Premiership second halves of all time.
It's enough to turn you grey.
And Wright-Phillips has been unceremoniously dumped by Elliott.
Well, he certainly got into the game, hasn't he, in this second period? Sean Wright-Phillips playing as a more central attacker. And to great effect. 2 goals to his name.
McManaman's going to get a yellow card for time wasting. If he carries on like this. He is, in fact.
Well, we've had just about everything, haven't we, this afternoon?
Keegan might have a bit to say about Steve Dunne.
Well, it'll be interesting to read the report that both managers write about the referee after this one, but you can see that equaliser again. Jenas with the final touch from a Newcastle United point of view, but Sean Wright-Phillips with the important touch from a Manchester City point of view, and he really did strike it well. And it's a very similar chance, if you recall, that Bowyer had in the first half. But, unfortunately for Newcastle, that wasn't converted.
Here's Willow flood, and there's been a flood of goals in this second half. And here's Wright-Phillips now. Manchester City looking like they mean business again, and they've got a corner.
Well, they've looked very vulnerable, haven't they? Both sides, it has to be said, defensively. You know, Robbie Elliott and Andy O'Brien have struggled with the pace of Sean Wright-Phillips, and also his bright play whenever he's been on the ball. He's been a real threat.
McManaman takes. Dunne with won the header, but Nicky Butt cleared it. Manchester City haven't been ahead in the game yet. And this would be around about a good time to start, mind you.
He's a tough little character, Willow Flood. Those that have seen him play at Manchester City, coming through the academy, and also the Republic of Ireland under 21s. He really is gritty and tenacious type of player.
Well, the second half has been everything the first half wasn't. It's 3-3 between Newcastle United and Manchester City. And they're closing in again. Shearer's got Bellamy nearby. Decided to go for it himself.
Well, it's a fantastic ball from James Milner to find his captain. And then you can see the job that Craig Bellamy does, because he does ever so well against Richard Dunne, just holding the central defender off and allowing Alan Shearer that little bit more time and room, but unfortunately Shearer couldn't take advantage of it.
An amazing game. Will we have more goals to come? Manchester City hope so here. Fowler's got Wright-Phillips in the middle, who's looking for a hat-trick, of course. Firm but fair from Thatcher. Bosvelt now for Wright-Phillips, but it's drifted away from him. He was onside.
If Nicholas Anelka's in the dressing room and somebody goes back in now and tells him it's 3-3, you're going to believe them.
Nah.
You can see the challenge there from Ben Thatcher on James Milner.
On by Shearer. Here's Bellamy. But Milner, and it's come off Distin. It's going to be a corner for Newcastle. Well, the way it's gone, you'd fancy another goal soon. We've gone a few minutes with that one. Milner takes. David James managed to get it away. Bernard did well. And O'Brien with a header. Good throw. Well, would have been a good throw for David James. So the Robbie Fowler fell over.
I think he'd need to have been on a Harley Davidson to catch that one. Just apologising, is he, David James? But such is the flow of this game now. You can see both sides after that winner.
Milner. Manchester City's throw. Bowyer. He's run into McManaman. Now Milner. And it's come through to Shearer, but he has to go and retrieve it. Jenas. Shearer delivers, but that's going to drift away.
Well, it's certainly been an absorbing second half, hasn't it? The first half was really poor fare. But Steve McManaman there just giving the ball away, felt he should have had a free kick. There's a little bit of afters between him and Lee Bowyer.
Fowler. Corner. Will we get yet another twist in this remarkable tale? Kevin Keegan watches and hopes. St James's Park goes a little quiet as McManaman delivers. Bosvelt. Wright-Phillips. Oh, he's into the side netting that time as he looks for a hat-trick.
Well, that's a terrific ball from Paul Bosvelt, but once again they go to sleep, Newcastle at the back. Sure, Wright-Phillips afforded far too much room. It's a great first touch, but that really needs to come back towards the far post.
Flood. He's still going. He's still going. He's got Fowler with him, but he decides to go for glory himself.
Well, I just wonder whether Robbie Fowler would have been a better ball for Willow Flood to play, but showing great footwork to glide past a couple of Newcastle United defenders.
He saw a headline there, Willow Flood. Milner. It opens up suddenly for him. It's a ricochet. And no foul on either side. Extraordinary second half.
Well, it has, and I think perhaps the referee feels that both players were committing fouls there, so he decided to allow play to go on. And it's one of those games now, Ian, where you don't want to end.
Bernard's throw. But battling with Mills, and Newcastle get the free kick. I wonder what he'll have to say at the end of this remarkable match. It's Newcastle's turn to have a go. David James with a good punch. Hughes. But Bowyer looking for a free kick.
Certainly a little bit of afters as well between Thatcher and Bowyer. And just one or two little niggles creeping into this game, such as the frustration, I think, of both sets of players to the amount of goals that's been given away.
Fowler. Elliott was quickly in. Bowyer now. Jenas. But Newcastle were 2-0 up. They were 3-2 up. Can they go 4-3 up? Bernard. And Bernard with the chance now to turn it back. Bellamy! He scored! The second half has simply taken our breath away. And Craig Bellamy, trust him to have a say on this day for Graham Souness and for Newcastle United.
Well, it's a great finish, and Graham will be urging his players to remain focused now and see this game out, but I really do feel sorry for young Willow Flood. The young substitute still learning the game. Kevin Keegan put him on that right-hand side. He really couldn't deal with the power of Olivier Bernard there. And Bernard just forced his way through, and he just sits up quite nicely. And I just wonder whether Sylvain Distin could have dealt with that, you know, because it wasn't one of those sort of strikes, an emphatic strike, if you like, that you're looking for. He just guided it towards that corner of the goal, and you can have a look there, Distin. I just wonder whether he thinks David James is going to make the save.
Craig Bellamy marks the 200th league game of his career with a goal. The week that he had a bust-up with Graham Souness. That's one way to make things up. Oh well, Manchester City have got to come back again. Don't write them off yet. Here's Wright-Phillips. We've written them off before in this match. Thatcher with a cross. Sibierski is in there. And Newcastle hang on this time. They might do a bit more than that. Here goes Craig Bellamy. And look at him go. And Dunne, no foul.
He did very well, didn't he, Richard Dunne there? Like for like. Craig Bellamy really taking Dunne on for pace. Certainly tested him, but the fourth official is about to put up that board saying how many crucial minutes are still left in this football match.
Here's Mills. And it's away by Olivier Bernard. Bellamy. Tries again, the deflection might take it for a corner. It does. Newcastle happy with that.
Well, they'll be pleased to get it this end of the field. And Kevin Keegan can only look on now with a great deal of frustration. He really has seen his side give a marvellous second half performance, hauled themselves back into the game.
Well, Craig Bellamy, a week after a spat with the manager, he's given a standing ovation by the Newcastle fans. Shola Ameobi is going to replace him. 52,000 Geordies rise to acclaim the man who might have scored the winning goal in this game, but we still better say might, because you never know. It's been a funny old second half. Souness sorted out Bellamy's problems earlier in the week, that's for sure, we can safely say.
Yep, he did, and you can clearly see there that it's worked.
3 minutes of added on time. Well, you wouldn't mind if this game went on all evening, and there's going to be a card shown here to Mills.
I can only think that's for dissent, really, by Danny Mills. And Steve Dunne there, just trying to calm the situation down. Newcastle just keep this ball in the corner, but it could be like rollerball now.
Well, Thatcher is coming now and bundled over Shearer, and Newcastle are seeing out things down in that corner admirably. Frustratingly for Manchester City. They're not going to move from there unless they have to now. You can't blame them. Fowler trying to put Hughes under pressure. Bernard. Foul by Fowler. Bernard struggling?
Yeah, he's struggling, isn't he? And he went to the ground very quickly, holding his ankle, but thankfully, I was going to say thankfully, it looks like he's back on his feet, but he's gone down again. This will only add to the tension of this football match. Fowler catching Olivier Bernard's left ankle.
Well, Kevin Keegan can barely believe it. He's on the wrong end of a 4-3 scoreline. Sounds familiar, hey? Think back to those great Liverpool-Newcastle matches. Now, of course, Keegan is up against Newcastle. Here's Mills, though. Just about everything has happened in this second half. You wouldn't write City off until that whistle goes.
Well, I made the mistake of writing them off when they were 2-0 down, and but they fought back admirably, and there'll be a real mixed emotions for Kevin Keegan if they do lose this football match, because his side have given him everything in this second period.
Newcastle have taken this thing out of things in added on time. It's all over. A simply astonishing second half. The first half was goalless and forgettable. The second half turned out to be one of the most amazing 45 minutes of Premiership football we'll ever see. Newcastle 2-0 up, pegged back to 2-2, both sides given a penalty. Then they went 3-2 up. Then Sean Wright-Phillips scored his second of the game to make it 4-3. But the man who had the final say on this incredible day was the man who had a bit of a spat with Graham Souness earlier in the week. Craig Bellamy's goal proved decisive in a second half that was absolutely, totally, completely, utterly incredible. It finishes at St James's Park. Newcastle United 4,